What if I told you that hiring remotely could be the worst thing you've ever done and actually destroy your company? I know that sounds dramatic, but these next few stories actually happened to my business partner, Esteban Andrade, and me over a few years ago, and we learned a lot of what not to do. And although we teach you guys all the time about what to do when it comes to hiring remotely, onboarding, and scaling a remote team, this video is gonna showcase some of the craziest stories that we've ever encountered. Guys, if you don't know who I am, my name is Omir Block. Over the last 4 years, we've hired almost 1,500 people. Last year alone, we hired almost 500 people, and we work with some of the biggest names in the space, from Ryan Pineda to Eddie Malouf to Nick Perry and many others. Here's the truth. Remote work is the future. Whether you like it or not, all companies are starting to go remote day by day because it helps companies save a lot of money. Plus, you can actually operate remotely and grow and scale to billions. Yes, that's right, billions of dollars. I personally know owners of $2 billion companies that operate remotely. And the reason being is because they were able to do this the right way, from building the right culture, to having the right systems, to hiring A players, and many other factors that help them grow to billion-dollar enterprise companies. So with that being said, let's dive into my first nightmare story. So about 4 years ago, I had a gentleman on my team who, I'm not gonna say his name, but he was someone that I actually started. My very first company was called Use Fava at the time. We ended up changing it to Using Fava. And this person was someone that I previously worked with in another company. And I'm not gonna go through the entire details, but here's what happened. This gentleman ended up threatening a $4 million lawsuit on me. And this gentleman was an overseas employee that I was paying anywhere from $5 to about $6 an hour. But what's crazy is there was about a 6-month period that he did not show up to work. He was doing nothing for the company, but the entire time I had his back. I paid him $800 per month just to support him, support his family, and really try to be there for him. Unfortunately, he was not mentally right, and I didn't want to just abandon him, especially at the time I was also working in another company, and I was making enough money to feed him and also slowly start focusing more on the business that I started with him. Here are a few things that I learned from this experience of working with this gentleman. Number one is when someone is not mentally right and they're showing you this, it's probably not the best to hire them for a startup, and it's definitely not the right time to give them a lot of work and pressure them, because I was thinking, oh, this is gonna be a distraction for him of all the mental stuff that he was going through. Absolutely not. If they're not in the right mental capacity, it's probably not good to have them on a startup and have them be a part of something absolutely massive. Number two, be very careful with the words you're using, because at the time, even though I made it seem like this is gonna be a partnership, we had nothing on paper, and even if it was a partnership in his head, I always thought that yes, they could have equity, but I never thought to myself that they would think this would be a 50-50 partnership. And these are just words that maybe I use as a partner. Because I did not make it very clear, he took it as this is a 50-50 partnership. And even though he disappeared for 6 months and I took care of him, he expected a lot more. And then number three, when someone takes a leave of absence, you need to set clear expectations and guidelines of when it's gonna end, because at the end of the day, if you're supporting them and you're helping them out, they need to come back to you at some point. Otherwise, it's probably gonna end at some point. So this happened to me, guys, and I learned a lot. I really hope and pray that this person is doing much better in their life today. And I wish they did not threaten a lawsuit with me. They even tagged, this is a true story, Alex Hormozy on his story, along with a few other of my friends, a couple of my mentors, and tried to get their attention that I am like the worst person in this company, screwed them over. It was the craziest month of my entire life, and this is right after I launched the business, about 4 or 5 months after I went all in on the business and I quit my multi-6-figure sales job. So this is a huge lesson. That's my first story. More to come on the next one. Story number two. A couple years ago, I got on an interview with the absolute wrong person. Let me explain. So we had a lady in the Philippines that went through our process, and I thought our process at the time was pretty good. And we came to find that day that it wasn't good. Here's why. As she went through our process, she submitted a video and she submitted a resume and even did a skill test. But what we didn't do is we didn't have an initial interview with her. She just straight interviewed with me. And when she showed up in the interview, guys, this is a true story, she did not speak English. That's right, she did not speak English, and in an American company, I don't even know how she got there. And what ended up being is that she had a twin that did the entire process for her. And because we didn't have an initial interview person for her, and I was the one interviewing with her, we were all confused and it was a complete nightmare. So here's a few lessons from this. Number one, if you're the CEO, if you're a manager, leader in the company, make sure that you're only interviewing people of quality. They're going through an entire process, which means they're submitting a video, a resume, multiple skill tests or personality tests, and having an initial interview screening with someone from the team before they interview with you. Even if you don't have someone to do the interview, you can pay for a platform called myinterview.com, which can submit up to 10 questions. They submit those questions in video form, so it's almost like they're interviewing with someone, and then you get to check it out and see if this person is good enough or not good enough to go through the process. If your processes are good, they're not gonna be taken advantage of. Because our process many years ago was not very good because we were still figuring out how to do certain things, we were wasting a lot of time with the wrong people, especially on interviews. Story number 3 is having 2 team members who are absolutely not on the same page for a long period of time, mostly because of cultural difference. So this actually happened when one of our Bolivian team members was going at it with our Vietnamese team member. Believe it or not, they were going back and forth for many months, and one of the things that I didn't do, so this is one of my first lessons, is I didn't step in time. I didn't put them together, and I completely ignored the red flags that were going on. Number 2, I thought letting them resolve it in a Slack group chat would make a lot more sense, and absolutely did not. Because I was scared of pressuring or getting on a call and making this awkward situation, I kept pushing this off for months. And thankfully, my business partner found out about this. He was like, hey man, let's just get all of us on a call, you, these 2 gentlemen, and our operations specialist, and let's make sure that this never happens again. And we set clear KPIs. We put them actually both on a performance improvement plan to make sure that this never happens again. And then we were able to resolve it. So even though we hire people from all over the world, I mean, this person was in Bolivia and the other one was in Vietnam, which is completely 2 different universes, guess what? They can still work together and they can still figure out how to be a part of the mission, vision, and align with our core values. If one of them does not align with what we're trying to do, they're out. Culture comes first. I actually just learned this from one of my 8-figure mentors. He says, I will fire someone that overperforms more than anybody else, but if they're a culture vulture and they're a poison to the team, they're out. They don't even get a second chance, which blew my mind because I like to give people chances, and sometimes I'm like, ooh, maybe they can get trained on culture. That is not true. If they're not a culture fit from day one, or they slowly become a culture vulture, they're out no matter their performance and no matter if they're gonna change. So if you have 2 team members that are maybe different genders, maybe different ages, maybe different cultures, and they're not getting along, it's your job to get in between them immediately, get them both on a call, set clear parameters, and let them know that if this does not change, they're both fired.
Wait, before you continue, let me share my story that happened with me a long time ago. So have you ever had people that show up to your meetings remotely, shirtless? Remember that person? Remember that guy? Shirtless, totally shirtless. Please blur that out. Yeah. There was this employee that every morning in our sales meetings would show up shirtless until someone kind of called him out straight directly, and I told him on Slack, hey man, you gotta stop doing that. I mean, like, I don't understand why you're doing that, but so this person ended up being someone that was deported from the United States and now is living back into their country, Colombia. And this person just developed some habits by living in the United States called, what is that habit called? Let's say it at the same time. Entitlement. Thing is that whenever you hire someone that lives in Latin America, but they were basically born in the United States, they come with this American habits. So it's a double-edged sword, right? They could be great workers. They could be very passionate about what they do. They could, be very loyal and stuff, but they can also be entitled. They can also just do, I'm only gonna work 40 hours. And they're also gonna have these American habits that don't allow them to really work harder and better, right? I'm not saying that all Americans do that, but Gen Zs and so on, they're very well known for this. So this is what happened. So if you hire someone that has been deported and lived in the United States for a long time, there's a risk that they have these habits. Have a good interview process and you'll figure out more about this individual. Ask them core value-based questions. to see if they actually are a good fit core value wise. Well, hold on, before you continue, I want to share something, because one of my stories actually, move there, sorry, please. One of my stories is something that happens a lot with businesses, and it's called double dipping. So if you catch your remote employee double dipping, it means that they're working for another company at the same time of working with you. And this happened, I was a newbie, and this is due to a lot of different things that we didn't do. Actually, this Filipino worker that was working for us ended up working for a friend of us at the same time, and we were noticing that this person, one, was not being as productive, and it was taking longer to respond, taking longer to do things, and so on. So there's a platform called Hubstaff. We both use Hubstaff, and I was able to see in the screenshots that it was taken of the computer a Slack messages and different communications of this other company. And luckily, I knew this other company. Somehow I knew that company, which was a coincidence. And I messaged that business owner saying, hey, did you notice that that person was working for me? And I asked that person, hey, is that person currently working for you? Do you pay them a salary right now? Do you have them in payroll? Yeah, full-time. She's a great worker, whatever. And I came to realize that this person was okay that he was double dipping with me because she was doing a great job for him. But I decided to fire her from my job, but he decided to keep her because she was doing a good job. But if you're in the position that I was, obviously I was pissed, and hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But you don't want that to happen. So you have to really set proper processes when hiring. This is because I didn't have a really good interview process. I didn't have a good onboarding process where you actually have control of your entire company. And even then, like even if you have the best processes, there's some people that will cheat all the time, but have Hubstaff in order to track what they do on a day-to-day basis. So I hope that this doesn't happen to you, but this is something that could happen to a lot of businesses. Wait a minute. Before you continue, I want to share something with you guys. This is something that happens if you hire in South Africa. South Africans are amazing, by the way. That's a cheat code for excellent English, excellent culture, and very highly skilled workers. South Africa, there's something called load shedding. So what happens is that they cut the power for several hours every single day. So if you hire a South African, they will be great individuals to work with and so on. They're highly skilled for different roles. Like we hire them for account success managers, we hire them for sales, we hire them for marketing, and they're great. But what if they disappear for several hours? This is what used to happen to us whenever we hire someone in Johannesburg and Cape Town, where they would just disappear for hours because they have no power. So we had to invest into their power and have a power source so that whenever the power goes out, their internet doesn't go up.
So the next one is about lying about KPIs. So I had a team member about 2 years ago that was one of my appointment setters, and I set clear KPIs and clear expectations with this gentleman. Unfortunately, this gentleman started taking advantage of my kindness. And the thing is, I have a quote that I live and die by, which is, at the end, everyone gets caught. At the end, everyone gets caught, but it's your job as the business owner, manager, leader of the company to catch it early on, which is why we enforce Hubstaff whenever someone is on a PIP. And many of our clients enforce Hubstaff from the very beginning. I agree with both, but you definitely need to know what's going on. So here's what was happening. This gentleman, for the first month, wasn't hitting their quotas, and he learned that, hey, you gotta start hitting your quotas the second month. Second month came around, and he was not hitting his quotas. So the third month, I put him on a performance improvement plan. And then he started lying to me. He started putting fake numbers. And it took me a few weeks to catch us on because this guy's saying he's hitting KPIs, but when I look into my calendar, appointments were not booked and people were not showing up. So what was he doing? God knows, God help him. I hope he's doing good. Here's a few things I learned from this. Number one, when someone's not performing, don't give them an extra month or two to figure it out. Start having the tough conversations with them. And if they don't get it within a week, you need to put them on a performance improvement plan immediately. Number two, start using Hubstaff. And if you can, start using it from the start. You're not gonna use it from the start. At least use it during the performance improvement plan. By the way, if you want an example of a performance improvement plan, comment PIP in this video and I'll personally send you that document that we use whenever someone is not performing the way they're supposed to. The last thing I learned from this is to make sure to hire honest people. And you're probably like, well, duh, I want to hire honest people all the time. Let me tell you guys something. Liars will lie in the very beginning. It doesn't take time for them to lie. They're just going to lie, and it's up to you to find out how to find out about this. This is how I find out about this, is giving them work without monitoring them and then reviewing that work with them right there and then, right? I'm not sitting there and watching every single thing that you do. I don't want to micromanage people, but if I give you certain work and it's not done, you better have a reason why it's not done, because if you don't, then you get in trouble. So don't give people too much time. Get them on a PIP as soon as you can, because if they're not performing, they're not gonna just start performing without any sign of warning. And catch people who are lying to you, because if they're lying, that's misusing your trust, that's going behind your back, that's stabbing you. And guess what? They're gonna do that with other team members and create absolute poison in your company. And there you have it. Those are the stories that we encountered over the last several years, whether it was internally with us, clients, and even friends in the industry. Thank you so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. And if you had a terrible story or a horror story, let me know in the comments below. I wanna see some crazy stories from you guys. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.